Good day, Internet. This is Chavez and Valko here with one of our weekly videos. But this week we don't have a specific immigration category to go over. Well, because we've done them all for the most part. So if you're interested in any type of non-immigrant visa or employment-based residency category, go look at our long list of videos. Today we thought we're going to have a little bit of fun and talk about common mistakes we see clients make. So, Andrew, how you doing today?
Doing good, Ben. How are you?
I'm excited to talk about all of the funny, mind-blowing things that we get from clients sometimes. But we hope that in going through this helps you, the viewer, avoid some of these common mistakes that we tend to see people make that end up getting them in trouble. Again, when you see Andrew and I talking, we're talking about all things employment-based immigration. So, of course, we're talking mostly about people that are here on a non-immigrant visa, an H, an L, an E, or maybe a student, or they're trying to apply for one of those things. And some of the just fun, common mistakes we play. Hey, Andrew, so how do you feel about role playing? You ever get into a little D&D?
Uh, Never D&D. I did some community theater back in the day.
Well, that sounds like fun. So, Andrew, let's get started here on some of these common mistakes that you can avoid. So, let me see here. I got to put on my client face here. Attorney Craven, I got an email from the embassy saying that my visa's been revoked and I need to come in and apply for a new one. Why would they do this?
I mean, there could be a number of reasons. Has anything changed? Anything gone on recently that would cause them to reevaluate your visa?
No, nothing. I don't understand. I mean, you said if we filed a change of status that I'd be okay.
Yeah, I mean, traditionally, just filing a change of status, that's all right. It shouldn't really affect your visa. Can you forward me the email or whatever notice you got? Maybe I'll look at it, see what they're saying.
And then we do 5 days later. Attorney Craven, so my criminal attorney said that he should probably talk to you to make sure everything looks good.
Your criminal attorney. Everything looks good with what now?
Oh, yeah. So I got 2 DUIs last month.
So I'm pretty sure we figured out why they revoked your visa. As it turns out, if you commit any kind of crime in the States, especially DUIs, that can be grounds for revoking a visa. You didn't think to mention that 5 days ago?
This actually happened, just so you know. Um, yeah, actually, in the Foreign Affairs Manual, which is what the Department of State uses, a DUI is a specific ground of revocation. Like it literally says, you get a DUI, we can revoke your visa. And some posts are very proactive and I guess they run weekly or not weekly, but probably monthly reports to see if they get any hits. And they're very proactive about it. A lot of the posts in India are, a lot of the posts in the Middle East are. Um, so if you get a DUI, you may get your visa revoked. And Andrew, I don't know if you know this little fact, but what does ICE think when you get your visa revoked?
Oh, I mean, technically your visa is not your status, but I'm sure that they would start flagging you and looking for reasons to deport you at that point.
Getting your visa revoked is grounds for ICE to look into deportation proceedings, to send you a notice to reappear. So, although technically a DUI is not a deportable offense, the DUI can get your visa revoked, and getting your visa revoked is grounds for them to start trying to deport you. So, I guess I would say client mistake number one is if you're a guest in a foreign country, don't drink and drive. And if you do and get caught, please tell your immigration attorney, not just the criminal attorney. Let the immigration attorney know um, that
Ride
that is
sharing
a
apps
problem.
are your friend.
Yes, in this day and age with Lyft and Uber, it's kind of like this should not be happening. But again, um, if you get a DUI and the embassy realizes it, they will revoke your visa. Period. Next one, Attorney Craven. I applied for a benefit. You can put whatever benefit you want. Work authorization card, green card. Let's just say I applied for something. Attorney Craven. I checked my online status for my case and it says the card was delivered, but I didn't get it. What happened?
That's weird. Let me double check. Yeah, card shows delivered. Are you still at your last address of 12345 Main Street?
Oh, no. Actually, I moved like 3 months ago.
Yeah, that would have been around when your card was supposed to be delivered within the last 3 months. Did you happen to fill out one of those AR11 forms also available online?
What's an AR-11?
Well, whenever you move, if you're here on a non-immigrant visa or pending an adjustment of status, you have to file what's called an AR11 notifying USCIS of your address change. This happens to be mentioned on every notice that USCIS sends out, as well as every email that I send.
Yes, it's actually in our email like signatures. There's a little like, hey, if you move, fill out an AR-11. There's a little link you can click on that takes you to the website. And the AR-11 is something you can fill out online. It's super quick. It's super easy, right? It just asks you what's your old address, what's your new address, and what forms may you have pending. You can put in the receipt numbers. Like you're supposed to do this anytime you move, no matter what. Um, yeah, and by the way, we'll put a link in this video just in case you're watching this and being like, oh no. It's super easy, it's super quick, and you get a receipt. Um, you should be doing this anytime you move, but especially if you have something that's pending, right? Because you want to make sure you get those notices. We've had clients miss interviews because they didn't get the notice. Obviously, not get their work authorization card, not get their green card, which is super important. Of course, they come to us and they're saying, "Oh, well, how do we fix this?" And it's like, well, guess what? If they sent it to your old address and you have proof that you filed an AR-11, then we can go back to them and say, hey, this was your mistake. You need to fix this. But if you don't have that proof, USCIS is going to wash their hands of it. Basically say, you want a work authorization card? You can file a new form, pay a new fee, and wait another 6 months to get it. Like they're not good. They have very little pity when it comes to this. If you move, file an AR-11. And again, I can't tell you, this has come up. This is one of the more common mistakes that we see out there. And again, especially if you have anything pending with USCIS, make sure you file it and that you keep that receipt. And again, you don't even need like an online account because there's certain things you can file, but you have to create an account and go into your account to file, like an I-539 or something or an I-765. You don't even need an online account to do an AR-11. You just go to the website, fill in some boxes, click submit, done. All right.
Yeah, and also
And
not that technical. We're talking pretty much name and previous address, new address. That's it.
I think maybe it asks for your passport number, like a number, and then ask you to list any receipt numbers. So if you're filing for a residency, you can put in your I-485, I-765, I-131. You can throw in all those receipt numbers. And again, they still screw up sometimes, but at least now you have evidence that you filed the AR-11. So if they're trying to say, well, we're denying your AOS because you didn't show up to the interview, we can go back to them and say, no, no, here, look, here's the receipt. He filed an AR-11 before you sent the notice. You all screwed up. You need to reschedule him for an interview. All right, here's another one. Attorney Craven, I'm in the airport in Mexico and they won't let me on the plane.
We'll let you on the plane. Why not? What are they saying?
Well, they're saying that I need a visa, but I'm using automatic visa revalidation, right? You said that if I have a expired visa but valid status, I can go to Mexico and come back. They're not letting me on the plane.
Yes. I mean, have you only been in Mexico for less than 30 days?
Um, well, I went to Mexico, but while I was in Mexico, I went to Colombia and then came back, right? But I'm coming in and out of Mexico.
Yeah, unfortunately, that doesn't matter for automatic visa revalidation. It is strictly for Mexico and Canada less than 30 days with a expired visa and valid I-94. So if you try and play games, cheat the system by stepping outside of Mexico and Canada, say you want to go to Canada and then France or Mexico and then Colombia, and then just come back to Mexico to re-enter or come back, yeah, they're gonna notice the other stamps in your passport and not allow it.
What blows my mind is I've had clients ask about this all the time, but we've actually had a few try it where they ask and I say, look, the basic rules, if you have an expired visa but valid status, you can go to Mexico or Canada for less than 30 days and return, right? And re-enter the country even though your visa is expired. It also covers changes of status. So if like you entered as a tourist and filed a change of status to like H or TN or something. Um, and so I always get that question of, well, what if I go to Mexico and then I go from Mexico to the foreign country and then I come back? They're only going to see that I'm coming out of Mexico. And it's like, they're not that stupid. First off, there's a stamp in your passport for every place you went. Secondly, in this era of digital records, you don't think that they're going to see that? Now, it's not to say I haven't seen a client get away with it. But if you're going to use automatic visa revalidation, you only go to Canada and you only go to Mexico. That is it. If you go outside of those places, you are playing with fire and you have about an 80% to 90% chance of getting denied. And then you're stuck waiting to apply for a new visa. And actually, dovetailing on this, a second fun one we run into, this actually happened recently. Attorney Craven, I'm in Mexico in the airport. They won't let me board the plane. I thought you said automatic visa revalidation works.
It does. I mean, do you have a expired visa and a valid I-94?
I do.
Have you only been in Mexico
I've only been in Mexico.
for 30 days or less?
Well, I've it's been like over 90 days. Pandemic and all that. I wasn't able to travel, but that shouldn't be a problem, right? They understand pandemic.
Yeah, no, CBP, you can call them a lot of things, but understanding is not going to be on the list. And if you're outside of that 30 days, then AVR is not going to work.
Yeah, they're very strict when it comes to automatic visa revalidation, right? Mexico, Canada, less than 30 days, like period. Another fun one didn't really bring up happened to a client. When they say you have to have an expired visa and valid status, you have to have an expired visa. I mean, I had a client call me because he's at the airport freaking out, and he's, same thing. They're not letting me on the plane. Well, do you have valid status? Yes. Were you in only Mexico? Yes. Less than 30 days? Yes. Do you have your valid visa? Well, you see or you said you have expired visa. Well, my expired visa is actually in my old passport back at my house. And it's like, well, then what are you showing them? Well, I'm not showing them. It's like, well, it says expired visa valid status. You can't just show valid status and get on the airplane. You have to show the expired. In this case, he had to reschedule a later flight, go home, get his old passport that had the visa stamp in it, come back, and then of course show the expired visa and the old passport, and then of course his new passport to get on the plane. CBP is stickler for these things. They want to see 100% compliance, or you can get denied. And again, when it comes to automatic visa revalidation, a lot of this actually doesn't even involve CBP. It involves the airline, like not wanting to let you on the airplane. This is another one that happened to me. Let me set the scene. Saturday morning, I've only been up for like an hour, got the kids up, got them their cereal, put them in front of the cartoons, planning my day, I'm going to mow the lawn or whatever, get a frantic phone call. Attorney Craven, I'm in the port of Galveston. I'm trying to board a cruise ship. We booked this cruise months ago and paid tons of money, and they're not letting me on the cruise ship.
Well, why are they saying is the reason?
Well, my visa expired, but I have valid status. Like, can't I just use automatic visa revalidation to go on the cruise?
I mean, as long as this cruise is only going to Mexico and Canada, where all is this cruise planning on stopping?
Well, it's a Caribbean cruise. It's going to like Mexico, but it's going to like the Bahamas and like Jamaica, and it's going to be a cool cruise.
Uh, yeah, your AVR is only going to work in Mexico, so they can't allow you to board the cruise ship if it's not only going to Mexico. Also, maybe you should have called to talk about this before paying a lot of money 5 months ago for a cruise.
That's the big takeaway from that example is if you're planning some type of big international travel and if you have a valid visa stamped in your passport and you have valid status, then it really shouldn't be that big of a deal, right? But if there's any nuance at all, just contact us, contact your attorney, Just ask. It doesn't hurt. I would much rather get that email that says, "Hey, we're looking at doing a cruise to the Caribbean. Will that be okay?" And I can just say, "Well, if your visa's valid, you're good. If it's not valid, then no." Like, it's a pretty quick answer, right? I'd rather get that question in an email 3 months prior than have the client frantically calling me on Saturday morning, standing on the pier in Galveston, Texas, you know, yelling about how he's about to lose 10 grand. And it's like, well, you could have saved yourself 10 grand with one simple phone call or one simple email. Again, I think the main takeaway from that one is just ask your attorney. By the way, whatever reason, when it comes to automatic visa revalidation, they've decided that students can go to Canada, Mexico, and adjacent islands. I don't know why students get the Caribbean vacation and like my investor client doesn't, but there's a little bit of nuance to that. Oh, this is a fun one. So this is more like attorney calling the client. Client, so we were working on your extension, and I was looking at your I-94, and it turns out your I-94 expired like 3 months ago.
What? But I have a 3-year, or I should have been given 3 years of status.
So you have an approval notice that's valid for 3 years, but you went out and came back. And when you came back, CBP only issued an I-94 valid for 1 year instead of 3. When you came back in, you didn't check your I-94 online?
No, I thought just, showing him the visa and the approval was enough.
So this is a common mistake people make. If you, let's say, for example, you have an approval notice, an H, an L, and it has a specific time period, let's say 3 years. When you re-enter, they should give you 3 years on your I-94, but CBP routinely screws this up and will give people less time. Also, with TNs, a lot of the time, they have a letter that requested 3 years, but when they get issued the visa is only for 1 year, and so then CBP just automatically matches the I-94 to the visa, even though they can give 3 years. So two things. First off, double check the stamp in your passport, right? Because they usually put a stamp in your passport. They write in the status and expiration date. And whether they do that or not, they always create a digital record. We should put a link to this down below. But anytime you enter the United States, go to the CBP website and double check your I-94, right? Double check every time you enter the country and make sure there's not something weird, because maybe they just screwed up and they gave you only a year. Maybe they matched it to your visa expiration when they could have given you more. Maybe they matched it to your passport expiration, which is actually valid for them to do. So if you have a 3-year approval notice, but your passport expires in 6 months, they'll limit it to your passport. So the main takeaway here is every time you enter the country, go to the CBP website, check your I-94. All you got to put in is like your name, birth date, passport number, and country, and it should pull up the record. You can also check your history too. You can see all your entries and exits. If for any reason it doesn't pull up, sometimes they screw up birthdays and names. And at the end of the day, it's either wrong or we can't find it. We can go to CBP deferred inspection and ask them to fix it if it was their mistake. But the problem we've had sometimes is the client never checked, and by the time it gets to us, they're already past their expiration. And we have had times where we've gone back to CBP and been like, hey, this was a mistake. Technically, they're out of status, but they shouldn't have been. Can you fix it? And they actually retroactively fixed it. But again, every time you enter, check your I-94. Oh gosh, this was a fun one I had. Attorney Craven, time for me to renew my E2 investor visa. What do you need from me?
Okay, let me just bring up your file. Well, we need all the updated documents. So, recent tax returns, W-2s, current rental agreement, everything like that.
Oh, you mean all the documentation from my business that it's ongoing?
Yeah, to show that, over the last few years, you've still been keeping up your business for the validity too.
Yes. So I actually sold that business.
When?
Oh, like a year ago.
The business that was the basis for your E2, you sold it a year ago.
Yeah, but I mean, I have the visa. I mean, the visa's valid, right? They gave me the status, so I'm good, right?
Well, you see, your E2 was dependent on you carrying on the investment that was the basis for that E2. So when you sold it, you pretty much lost your basis. So should have called me a year ago.
There's a difference between having valid status and maintaining your status. So if I get an E2 and they give me and I get it, let's say a 5-year visa, and I enter on that visa and they give me 2 years of status, just because I have 2 years of status doesn't mean I'm maintaining it, right? To maintain that status, I have to work for the company that sponsored me. If I'm like an H or an L or a TN, or if I'm like an E, I have to continue, you know, managing the company that I've invested in. So the main takeaway here is that if there's going to be any major changes that could potentially impact your visa, please consult with your attorney and double check with them. Because, again, it could be a case where, hey, look, I set up this LLC and we created this company. I'm selling the company, I'm keeping the LLC, but then I'm going to reinvest that money in something new, right? Oh, okay, thanks for letting us know, and we can verify that that's fine. You don't have to stick with the one company. As long as you have invested in and keep managing something, you can, change your direction. You can do that. But I've literally had clients that just flat out sold it and then did nothing, just sat back and were like, yeah, I got money. I'm cool. I got a valid visa. It's like, no, because when I go to file that renewal or that extension, if they question us on maintenance of status, I'm not going to have any proof to show that you've maintained your status, and they could deny the extension for failure to maintain status. And it blew my mind that a guy would get an E2, all of the work that went into documenting that company, and then he just sold it like it was nothing and didn't say anything. I can't tell you how many of these issues that all relate back to client not communicating important things to attorney, or at least, again, just send an email, ask a question. Hey, I'm thinking about doing this. Is it okay? I mean, I get some really dumb ones that are like, well, can I buy a house? Well, of course you can buy a house. You don't have to have any legal status in the United States to buy a house or buy a car, right? I mean, I think those ones are kind of dumb, but whatever. At least you asked. I'd rather you ask the dumb question, right, than not ask the important ones. There you go. Communicate with your attorney. A lot of these come back to communication. This was a fun one. I don't even know how to recreate this one.
I don't even know what to answer it with.
This is okay. Andrew, I'm just going to give you the fact pattern here. Client's on vacation. Client's on his way home from vacation. It's late at night. They decide, you know what? Kids are cranky. We're not going to get home on time. So let's just find a place to stay for the night and we'll continue our trip in the morning. Cool. We'll whip out our phone, right? We'll go to Airbnb. Oh, hey, look, I found this great place right by that's cheap, looks awesome. Let's go there. Cool. Again, this is the client story. They go to the Airbnb, no problem. Get off the freeway, go to the Airbnb, stay the night. They get up in the morning. They're using their GPS, go back to the highway, and all of a sudden they're like, wait a second. That's a border checkpoint. Wait a second. We're entering the US? When did we exit the US? We don't have our passports. This is what we call the accidental Mexican Airbnb oops case. Oh, this actually happened.
I'm still not sure how you accidentally leave the country.
Went through Mexican customs, which usually entails crossing a bridge, rolling up on a guy in a uniform speaking Spanish. It says government of Mexico. And they're just like, oh, weird. These interior CBP checkpoints. I guess they're all the guys that work at them are Mexican and speak Spanish. Now, the interesting thing here is they were able to convince CBP to parole them in, basically like a temporary, entry. And then they were able to gather up their documents, go to the CBP deferred inspection site, and say, "Hey, here's my H-1B, here's my passport." So this kind of brings up two things. Number one is being obviously check your GPS and don't accidentally end up in Mexico or Canada, right? I mean, I'll be honest here. If you're visiting El Paso, you're about 2 margaritas from ending up in Juarez. Um, that happens. So, double check your GPS. Also, if it doesn't say CBP at the border, you're probably going the wrong direction. But number two, though, is that technically by law, you're required as a visitor to carry your passport with you at all times. Now, you're not necessarily going to do that on the daily, going back and forth from your job. But if you're traveling like on vacation and you're going to a different state or a long drive, you should have your passport on you just in case. I mean, look, I was in El Paso last week for a conference, and guess what? I took my passport with me just in case because we were only about 3 margaritas from ending up in Juarez. Um, uh, so the one is be careful of your location, and then two, again, if you're going on any type of like extended trip, you're flying anywhere, you probably want to have your passport on you. Especially if you're flying anywhere near a border, or like if you're flying to Hawaii or flying to Puerto Rico, even though Puerto Rico is technically the US, if for whatever reason the plane gets diverted and you end up in like the Dominican Republic or someplace like that, and you don't have your passport, all of a sudden you're in trouble. So take your passport with you when you go on vacation or any trips, even if they're in the US, right? Because you just never know, especially if you're near a border or you're flying out over water, do it. Okay, this is a fun one. And the next one's a fun one that there's so many variations of it. Attorney Craven, CBP wouldn't let me into the country. They detained me and then they sent me home. They wouldn't let me in. What's going on?
I mean, first off, what did they tell you was the reason? Did they give you any kind of documentation?
Well, man, they searched my phone. They searched my laptop. They searched my bag. Man, can they do that?
I mean, yeah, within 100 miles of the border, really, no one has many constitutional protections in terms of search and seizures. So, yeah,
Wait a
they
second.
can
Wait a
definitely
second.
search everything.
I've seen Law and Order. Don't they have to have like probable cause and a warrant?
Not at the border.
You mean they
Uh,
can just search whatever they want just because?
yeah, U.S. citizens, foreign nationals, very, very few protections at the border.
Well, they said I was coming in. They said I was coming in to work, and I
Okay,
was
why
entering as
did
a
they
tourist.
say? Okay, so you're entering on a B as a tourist. Did you say anything to make them think that you would work?
Well, I told them I was coming as a representative of the foreign company, like you said, that I could enter, like to do sales on behalf of the foreign company. You said that would work.
Well, I mean, you can come into potentially, do certain things on a business B visa, but did they, find any documentation that would make them think you were doing
Well,
anything for the US company?
well, as you know, I'm working with you and your firm to set up a U.S. company to eventually sponsor a visa. And well, I maybe got a little bit ahead of myself, and I printed some business cards for the U.S. business that I had with me, and they saw those.
Yeah, so really, first off, tourist B is separate from a business visitor B, and also you can't represent the US company at that point, then you're working for a US company. So definitely should not have jumped the gun on the business cards.
Here's the thing with CBP, right? They suspect everybody's guilty until proven innocent. They think everybody who's coming in is coming in for illegitimate purposes. And so they're just looking for whatever thing they can find. And this is not a criminal court. They don't have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. They just have to find anything that gives them the slightest sliver of suspicion, and they can deny you. And so we've seen people get nailed for emails. They searched their phone, they found emails that just said, hey, oh, hey, about this job offer, or hey, you come into work, or whatever it may be. Emails. Business cards is one that's happened before too, where they're like, I'm coming in to represent the foreign company. Like there's a business card in here that says general manager of, ABC Company USA. Now you can try to explain that, like, hey, I'm actually trying to set up a business. It's not yet operational. I'm going to apply for an e-visa. They don't care, right? They don't care. They're just like, No, man, it says you're general manager for this company, so you must be working for him. Get out. Not, again, of course, you can come back and say, well, don't you need proof? Like, don't you need pay stubs or W-2s? I don't have those because I've never been paid. I don't work for them. It's just a company we're setting up. Doesn't matter. All a CBP has to have is the slightest sliver of evidence, and they will send you packing. So I know, like, personally, I have an app on my phone that has all my personal email, and I have an app on my phone that has all my work email. When I go through CBP, I just delete that app, right? I just delete it off my phone. And then when I get on the other side, I just re-download the app and log in and everything. I just delete off my phone. Obviously, I'm not an immigrant, but nobody has Fourth Amendment protections at the border, not even U.S. citizens. So if they wanted to stop me and demand to search my phone, they could. And this has happened. And it's like blows my mind that this is something that this is still legal this day and age because attorney-client privilege, right? So make sure you don't have anything on your person or on your phone or on your laptop, right? And even then, sometimes I've heard of cases of people getting nailed. I'm sorry, I see a note from our guy behind the scenes, Joe, that just says burner phone. Are you going to mail your iPhone and then cross with your burner phone? I mean, I guess, but and the problem too is a lot of people get nailed that are not doing anything wrong. Like, you can get people that are just in the process of trying to set up a company to sponsor a visa, which is a legitimate reason to be entering the United States to set up a company. And then they just get nailed, right? Or, maybe they just have this card that says they're general manager because they are an investor in the company, but they're not actually working for the company, right? It just makes it easier for them when they're like handing someone a business card and they're trying to negotiate something to kind of present yourself that way, even though you're not on the payroll. You're not, you're still on the payroll of the foreign company. There's plenty of ways to kind of get caught up in this, even though you really didn't do anything wrong. I've also heard of people where they search the computer, and when they search the computer, they open up your browser, and then of course, then they go to like Facebook and Instagram, and they're looking at what you've been posting. Actually, there was a famous case of a kid who got denied for possible links to terrorism because CBP grabbed his computer and were looking at like his Facebook. So the number one thing is to say at CBP, you have no rights to privacy. You have no Fourth Amendment protections. So don't have anything on your person, on your computer, on your phone that could potentially get you in trouble. Be careful when it comes to CBP. They're maybe the worst of all of the immigration agencies when it comes to just pure assholery. CBP may take the cake. Let's see. Got maybe two more fun ones here fun ones we can talk about. Hey, Attorney Craven, we need to file my extension of my H. What do you need from me to file my H extension?
Oh, your W-2s, last 3 pay stubs, and then we'll also
Okay.
need some stuff from your.
Here's my last 3 pay stubs and my W-2.
Oh,
Good?
thank you. Who's this employer on your W-2 and pay stubs?
Oh yeah, that's my new employer. I changed employers a couple months ago.
Did you file with USCIS a change of employer petition, or?
I didn't think I need that. I have a 3-year approval, right? So I'm like good to like work on my H.
Well, so each 3-year approval is tied to the employer on an H-1B. So if you move employers, you do have to file a change of employer. Also,
Oh,
if there was just any significant changes, well, there's some detail into that, but any significant changes, you might need to file an amendment.
Scene 2. Here's my W-2. The employer matches, but maybe there's something else off about it.
Oh, what, a heavy increase in pay?
No. Maybe the location?
Yeah, location would also be a reason to file an amendment.
Wait, you were working in Dallas. Your W-2 and your pay stub says your address is in California? Oh yeah, I moved to California. We didn't file an amendment. Did somebody else file an amendment? Oh, I didn't know I need. Oh, yeah, I have the approval. if you're going to change employers or you're going to move locations, you should probably reach out to your attorney and ask. When it comes to location changes, for the majority of visas, it's actually not a problem, right? So like a TN or an E or even an L, a location change actually isn't an issue, as long as you work for the same company. H's, however, have what's called an LCA you get from the Department of Labor. That LCA is based on the job code and the specific location. It's called the Metropolitan Statistical Area. Think of it as kind of like your sort of like county and adjacent county area. In this case, it would be like DFW. If you move to a different metropolitan statistical area, so if I move from Dallas to Houston or Dallas to Los Angeles, Dallas to New York, you have to file an H-1B amendment because you have to get a new LCA. And it may have a different prevailing wage because of the location. The prevailing wage in New York is going to be vastly different from Dallas. And so, yes, anytime you change employer, you may need to file, well, if it's an H, you have to file a change of employer. If it's something like a TN, you have to file a change of employer with USCIS or go out and apply for a new visa and come back. You have two options there. So if you're going to make a big move or if you're going to change employers, ask your attorney. Maybe shoot us an email and say, hey, is this a big deal? Can you help out? Do I need to do anything? And even for H's, even if you move within the same MSA, there may still be something you have to do because you have to post the LCA at the workplace. But let's say one of my workplaces on the LCA is work from home, and then I move to a new house, even though it's in the same MSA, I don't have to file an amendment, but I have to post that LCA at the new worksite location. And you're asking, well, if I work from home, where am I posting the LCA? Am I posting it on my fridge? Yep. Because in this day and age, we still have, physical postings for a lot of stuff instead of just moving it to 100% digital, which I don't understand why we don't do that completely. It doesn't make any sense. But we've seen plenty of people get into trouble, especially TNs. I don't know why TNs just think they came in like on a visa with 3-year approval and they can just jump from job to job. It's like, no, we had this happen at least twice recently. If you're going to stay here, you need to file a change of employer with USCIS, or you need to go out, apply for a visa, and come back. You can't just change employer. That approval or that visa is typically tied to that employer. And again, when in doubt, ask your attorney. And hey, look, if you need a magnet to stick that LCA up to your fridge, come to our office. We can give you some cool Chavez and Valko magnets to make that work. All right, so here, let's jump to our last one, which is one of my or wilder one, and we have a lot of variations of this one. Surprisingly, Attorney Craven. So man, I don't know what's going on. I have a valid H-1B visa, and I'm like working for the company. I'm maintaining my status, but I just got a notice to appear from ICE. Like, does that mean they're like going to court and want to deport me? Why would they do that?
Oh, let's see. Let's double check the file here. And your degree is from a school that actually just popped up in the news recently for an ICE sting. So yeah, they're accusing you
What do you
of
mean?
fraud.
What do you mean? I got my degree from the University of Northern New Jersey.
Yeah, the University of Northern New Jersey was actually set up and run by ICE for the express purpose of trying to catch people committing fraud.
Oh my gosh. So not only did they go to a fake university, but they went to a fake university run by ICE, right? And they tried to play it down like, well, I didn't know it was fake. What? It was run by ICE. Did you go to class? No. Did you ever talk to a professor? Like, of course you knew it was fake. And USCIS or ICE knows you know it was fake because ICE was running the freaking university. In my career so far, this has happened at least twice. that ICE has come out and been like, haha, we arrested all these people that because of this fake university that we were running. And one of them was this one, the University of Northern New Jersey. And we had a client that had a degree from that university. And we're just like, oh my gosh. But we see this all the time, unfortunately. Another client that came and be like, oh, I got a notice to appear. Oh, what happened? Oh, well, I had OPT, which is your work authorization you can get after you graduate. Oh, really? Who are you working for? And of course, we Google the company that was sponsoring their OPT, and lo and behold, all these articles pop up about these fake OPT employers that had gotten nailed and all these people that got arrested. And you're like, so you went to a fake company to get your OPT, huh? You didn't know it was fake? Well, I didn't know it was bad. But did you actually work? Did you go to a place and work and they gave you stuff and paid you? Like, you would be surprised the number of times that clients get caught up in scams, sometimes completely innocently, but other times where it's like, dude, come on. Like you knew. Um, you need to, I guess the number one thing is just do things the right way, right? If you're gonna use OPT, go find a legitimate employer. You'd be surprised. A lot of employers will employ people on OPT because it's an open work permit. They don't have to do anything, right? If you're going to go to a school, go to a real school. Don't go to a fake university because even if it's not run by ICE, you still see all these announcements of them figuring out that some school was fake and then going after everybody that went to it, right? And again, we already discussed this. They do not have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that you knew. That is not the standard. This is not criminal court, right? They just have to have a reason to believe, which is a very, very low bar, meaning they can basically just say, this was a fake university. You were enrolled in that university. Therefore, you committed fraud, which is a permanent bar to the United States. So I guess the main takeaway from this is please don't try to game the system. It will eventually come back to bite you in the butt. And I've seen it come back early on. I've seen it come back years down the road. Now, if it's something that was a truly innocent mistake, then sometimes we can fight that, right? To say, look, as part of like a fraud finding, you have to kind of show that they knew and that they intended to do it, right? And there you can, there's no evidence that they knew or that they intended to do this. And sometimes we can fight it, right? But there's plenty of cases where they come to us and they're like, how can I fix this? And it's like, dude, you got caught red-handed. I can't fix this, right? I mean, I'm not Better Call Saul, right, over here with my shenanigans to trick USCIS or ICE into dropping. It just doesn't work, doesn't happen, right? Once you get, once you get that scarlet letter, it is darn hard to get it removed. Better call Ben. Better call Andrew. You can field all these cases. So again, we just wanted to go through some of the common mistakes we see clients do. And I would say probably when we circle back around and sum all this up, a lot of it has to do with communication, right? Make sure you're communicating with your attorney. Make sure you're double checking documents and entries and GPS locations to make sure you're not going the wrong, accidentally driving into Mexico. Now, this is not to say we're not here just to dump on clients. Attorneys screw up all the time, but that's going to be for another video. When we get to go through all the different ways that we've seen cases get screwed up by the attorney, as a way for you guys to help you maybe spot when things are going sideways and maybe you need to seek a second opinion or find another counsel. So that will be for another video. The when attorneys go wrong. But anyway, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoy our content. If you have any suggestions, feel free to leave a comment. Obviously, if you have any questions, you can ask some questions in the comment or go to our website, schedule a consultation to talk with us. We have attorneys here that deal with all facets of immigration. So obviously, if it's employment related, you can talk to me. If it's asylum, deportation, litigation, we have great attorneys here that handle that and can consult with you. Right. Check us out on socials. Download our app, Lawpilot Guardian. You can find it for iOS or Android. Lots of useful information there. But until then, hey, thanks for tuning in and we'll see you next week.